Hey, what's going on guys? John here, and it's been hell of a day. Apple announced 3 new products. Well, not exactly 3. They announced 1 product, but they put it into 3 different devices. So we have the Mac Mini, the MacBook Air, and the MacBook Pro. If you guys haven't already heard, go on to the Apple website. You guys will see the 3 products there. But let's talk a little bit about the M1 processor that Apple just announced and why this is so superior, why this is such a big thing compared to every other chip out there. Now we have AMD and then we have Intel. Now those are the 2 biggest competitors, and I think they're the only 2 competitors right now. Now Apple's just joining the space, and this is why the competition is so difficult. But yeah, I do have my notes right here. I'm just going to be reading off of it just because there's quite a bit of things that come along with this M1 processor. So first things first, this is a 5nm die. This just means that it's a lot squished into a very small amount of space, meaning that it actually has more room on the actual board itself to do other things. This is a system on a chip, so it does include the GPU, the CPU, and even a bunch of other Apple related stuff such as the secure enclave. But on this chip alone, we do have 8 processors. Now don't get confused with an 8-core processor that you might see on an i7 or an i9. This is 4 efficient and 4 power cores, so they are going to be running at different times. This is not hyper-threading, where if you have 8 cores and then you're going to have an additional 16 threads on top of that with turbo boost and everything else. Those are all just naming and software schemes to let you know that you can do a lot more work with the amount of cores you have. This one is an actual 4-core that's power efficient, and then we have 4 cores that's essentially made for power intensive apps. Now the single chip is going to be pushed into all 3 products, and that's where the confusion is going to come in, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end of the video here. Now the most interesting thing here is that most other laptops out there do have an integrated GPU, and this doesn't do very well. It's just enough to do the basic things like watching YouTube, watching a movie, and actually just jumping onto the UI of Windows 10. And then the same also goes for previous MacBook products that do not have a dedicated GPU. That goes for the MacBook Air, the MacBook, and the MacBook Mini. And if you guys can recall, all the other products out there, even the 13-inch does not have a dedicated GPU on the Pro version. So this isn't going to be the first time that Apple's including an integrated chip. However, this is going to be one of those powerful GPUs that's inside of the die itself. So if any of you guys are experiencing A-series devices with the A4, A5, all the way up to the A14 right now, you guys know that the GPU is really good. So with that being said, that coming on to the MacBook lineup is just amazing. You can see how many things you can already do with the iPad Pro and how powerful it is in general. Now that being onto the M1 processor, that's going to be upped another level. Now with Apple giving all the multipliers, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, a 5x to 10x increase, I'm not even sure how they can measure that in terms of just raw performance, but it is going to be substantially quicker. And I gotta say, it is probably gonna be quicker in all of the native apps that Apple built it for, because they've tested it very well. But compared to third-party apps out there, I think there's gonna be an increase, but there's not gonna be that much of an increase. So things already load up very quick, almost instantaneous on the i9s and the i7s. How can Apple get any quicker than instantaneous? I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So this chip right here isn't intended to compete with the i9s and the i7s. As you guys can see, it's not going into the Mac Pros or the MacBook Pro 16-inch. It's only going to those lower tier devices, and even though it is quicker, I don't think it's quicker than the i7 and the i9. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think of that. I might be wrong, but I do have it ordered, and I'm going to get my hands on it as soon as possible. Compare it right next to my Intel chip devices and see how that handles. So as some of the commercials on the event has said, developers have already had their hands on this product for the last couple weeks to a month, and they said it's substantially quicker. Now that I'm pretty sure is the truth. However, they're probably not comparing it to the i7 or the i9s. Now, I'm not very biased towards Intel. I know that Intel does an amazing job. And while we're on that topic, developers have already had their time to move all the products onto the M1 processors. That's going to be a huge improvement. And for those developers that aren't, we do have Rosetta 2 out right now. And Apple even said that Rosetta 2 might actually load apps quicker than if they were on Intel chips. And this is because the M1 is so much quicker. So this is going to be very interesting to test out and see for myself, as there are a couple apps out there that are guaranteed not to support the M1 processor that's going to be coming coming out because these apps are no longer available on the developer's website. Now, I'm not going to mention specifics, but there are apps out there where you can share files peer-to-peer. You guys know what I mean? To get movies for free. Yeah, those are the ones I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be moving their way over to the M1 Apple processor anytime soon. So on the Apple M1 chip here, Apple does show that there's vast amount of improvements. You guys can see the transistor difference, the heat output, how much battery life it gives. But one thing I do have to mention is, guys, the M1 processor is going to 3 different products, and 3 different products that are in different tiers from each other. So the iPad Air and the Mini, I can totally understand they are on the low end of things, but the same chip going into the iPad Pro, that's where I'm really confused. Why would I pick up an iPad Pro if my MacBook Air can essentially do the exact same things and be just as powerful? So if I spec'd out my MacBook Air to be the top lineup and I picked up a low tier of the MacBook Pro, are they exactly the same performance? So we're gonna have to check that out in this video when it does come out, or you guys can go ahead and just read on the Apple website and let me know in the comments below how is that going to be working out. But yeah, guys, this should pretty much wrap it up for this whole recap of the event. Now we're all focusing just on the chip itself. All the devices stay unchanged, so there's nothing to it this year. The chip itself is the highlight, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure you guys hit that subscribe, that bell notification, and once the products come in, as well as the products that I've already ordered, which is all the Mini and the HomePod. Once again, guys, peace out.